It's time for Top Story on AM 1480 WLEA Hornell. Here's Ryan O'Neill.
Big news this week out of the nation's capital, where there's all kinds of stories about immigration and more accusations against the IRS are emerging. On to talk about that and other issues involving state government too, Assemblyman Bill Nojay. Assemblyman, thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure as always.
Assemblyman, before we get to immigration and the IRS, the Cuomo-Asta Reno race for governor and other issues, I wanted to ask you about the latest on the VA scandal. This is from Breitbart's website. On June 30th, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the VA there, a Vietnam vet had a heart attack in the cafeteria at the VA. Now, this is one of two 911 calls that have been released to the press. In this call, a woman phones 911 for help from within the VA, the cafeteria, because of an apparent lack of help from the medical professionals on duty.
We called our rapid response here at the hospital, but unfortunately they won't respond to him because he's out of the main medical building.
The Albuquerque Journal says nurses in the cafeteria tried to help the vet, but the caller told 911's dispatcher that the nearby doctors in the cafeteria would not help.
There's a table of doctors sitting right next to us, and none of them are doing
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Bill, Congressman Tom Reed has publicly stated that the problem with the VA was systemic, that just firing one person at the top would not solve the whole problem. Does this news prove Reed right?
It does, and Brian, you and I have talked about the situation at the VA, and as you may know, I've got a stepson who is a Marine Corps veteran who got hit with an IED in Afghanistan, who's similarly experiencing the kind of bureaucratic nonsense that you just described that's going on in Arizona, and it's going on right here in New York. The Veterans Administration is not going to be put right by a change of one or two bureaucrats at the top. Tom Reed is right. It is a systemic problem, and it's not even a systemic problem of the VA. It's a problem of bureaucracy. This is that kind of indifference, the callousness, the not caring about the people you're supposed to be serving. You'll find that in any bureaucratic organization. I don't care if it's the Veterans Administration or Medicaid and Medicare processing or any other government office for that matter. It is the nature of bureaucracy. And I'll go one step further. I think it's a problem that is dominant in government, but it even extends to some private large corporations. You know, back in the day before there was competition and the phone company was a monopoly, people used to joke about the uncaring bureaucrats in the phone company that would tell you that, you know, what you could buy and so on. So I think it is a problem that is systemic, but it's systemic in bureaucracies, and the answer is to break up the monopoly and create a competitive system where if people want to hold their jobs, they better be a little bit more responsive and more customer service oriented. That's the way you break the back of a bureaucracy and make it more responsive to consumers, or in this case, our veterans. We really shouldn't even have a VA, except for very specialized military service type missions that require physicians who really do have the special, whether it be in burn units or PTSD. Routine veterans care should be handled with vouchers, and we should just dissolve the rest of the VA bureaucrats, get them into competitive environments in private health care.
Here's what Donald Trump said about the treatment of the vets in comparison with the way that the illegal aliens or illegal immigrants are being treated.
Going to be flocking. This is just the beginning. They're flocking in by the millions.
Yeah, no, it's Obamacare, disability payments. You know, we have some instances of, all of this is happening.
We'll take care of them.
Yeah,
we can't take care of our VA hospitals.
Right.
But I guarantee we'll take care of these people.
Yeah.
Assemblyman Nojay.
Well, as you know, I'm a big fan of Donald Trump. I tried to get him to run for governor of New York, and I think we came just that close. But he would have been a great candidate and a great governor of New York State. I think he'd be a great administrator, chief executive of any organization you put him in charge of. Whether he winds up running for a federal office or presidency or whatnot, I have no idea. I have not spoken with the guy in months now, but ever since the gubernatorial thing went awry. But he's right. And he is a big believer in competition. And I think that he and Congressman Tom Reed, any of us that have looked at federal government, or for that matter, New York State government in my case, and the things that I see in Albany on a regular basis, knows that a bureaucracy that is given a dominant position where they can dictate to consumers or taxpayers or veterans, as the case may be, basically a monopoly position, they inevitably go bad. And there's very little that leadership at the top can do about it because it's a culture that develops within the organization. The only solution is to break it apart, create competition, give people vouchers so they can choose themselves. You know, another area, public education. Look at the public schools in New York State that have a near monopoly position. They're a disgrace. They spend more money than educators anyplace else in the United States, and they deliver a product that is not taking care of our kids and providing them with the education that they need. The best solution, give parents a choice in where their kids go to school. That will get the attention of the bureaucrats in the public education bureaucracy and get them to get their act together. Same thing with the Veterans Administration. Just downsize them and give veterans vouchers so they can buy their medical care from the private physician of their choice.
Now, Breitbart also broke a story, and this was on Friday, that the TSA is allowing illegal aliens to get off planes and come into America without checking them. Breitbart.com says this information was given to them by a Border Patrol Union spokesman, not an unnamed guy, the union spokesman in Texas. Your thoughts on the double standard of the TSA giving pat-downs to 6-year-olds or even big names like U.S. Senator Rand Paul, while illegal aliens just come in unfrisked?
You know, I never thought I would see this in my lifetime, but I am really, and I've held back saying this. I know a lot of other folks have been saying things like this for a number of years, but I'm really convinced that Barack Obama and a lot of the people around him want to see an America that is very, very different from the America that I grew up in. And whether or not he is just contemptuous of traditional American values, why he's contemptuous, I don't know. I mean, I've never met the guy, so I have no idea what's going on.
Bill, wondering, not to interrupt you, but wondering, have you seen the Dinesh D'Souza movie America yet?
I have not seen it. Dr. Bob Savage, who, as you know, does the Daily Show with me, he has seen it. He said it's one of the best movies he's ever seen.
One of the running themes in that movie is that President Obama subscribes to I wouldn't say hostile would be the word, but an attitude that there's a lot of problems with the 1776 America.
Yeah. No, again, I have not seen the movie, but I don't need to see the movie to understand where Barack Obama's coming from. He has a deeply rooted hostility towards the United States as you and I have known it growing up, and wants to transform this country into someplace very, very different. I think it's a scary thought. I think what he's doing to this country, I just hope we can recover in the next presidency, and I thank God for term limits. I mean, if we didn't have term limits, can you imagine another 4 years of this guy? There wouldn't be an America left. And I don't mean to be glib or exaggerate things. I just think that what he is doing is a horrible, horrible disservice to the America that really is the beacon of hope to the rest of the world and has been such a great leader in human rights and democracy and individual liberties. He's throwing all of that under the bus.
I won't wreck the movie for those who haven't seen Dinesh D'Souza's America movie, but I will say that one of the things that he does is he pokes holes in the anti-founding father conspiracy theories and then shows you that it's the left that pushes this, and then he shows how the left is abusing agencies like the IRS in modern times while focusing on things that happened 200 years ago.
But, you know, Brian, it's not just this border issue and so on. Think about what Barack Obama has done. He has gone well down the road of destroying America's private health care system. He has brought Common Core, which is a federal curriculum to our schools, and which effectively cuts off the ability of parents to help their own kids with basic math problems, because it creates a new curriculum, a new way of teaching that parents can't identify with. So it's separating children from their own parents in the traditional kitchen table getting the homework done exercise that so many of us grew up with. I could keep going. I mean, the use of the IRS as a political tool against your enemies. These are all things. Remember this: Chuck Colson, the Nixon aide, went to federal prison for having one FBI file in his White House office. We're now living in an environment where thousands of confidential files are being improperly disclosed, and nothing is happening in Washington. This is stuff that would make the Founding Fathers turn in their graves, and I just hope that we can salvage this thing while there's still time. A lot of people take America for granted. We got to remember that in the 3,000 years of recorded history of humankind, a lot of countries come and go. We shouldn't take anything for granted, certainly not our liberties and our freedoms and our constitutional style of government that has survived for 240 years. This guy Obama and the people around him, some of whom are true believers in what he does, some of whom are just useful idiots going along with the program because it gives them a job or whatnot. Either way, they're leaving this country a very, very different place than it was when they found it 6 years ago.
Bill, on the IRS, which you just spoke of, what do you think about the news that Fox News broke on Thursday about how former IRS head of tax-exempt groups, Lois Lerner, said in an IRS computer messaging system that the IRS should be careful about what they say in emails? Two questions there. One, first, is it normal procedure for government agencies to have their own specific private computer messaging system? And second, isn't it a little suspicious that she was warning people to be careful what they say in emails? Doesn't it go without saying that you're always careful?
Now, Lois Lerner and other high officials at the IRS had literally hundreds of meetings with political people in the White House for the sole purpose of targeting conservatives and using the IRS as an engine of political vendetta against conservatives. I think there should be indictments. I don't think there's any question in my mind that this is over the top, unacceptable, and it's got to be rolled back. And there's got to be a message sent that you cannot get away with this in the United States of America. Lois Lerner is, I think, fairly clearly guilty of sin. I usually am the kind of person that will be the first to say you're innocent until proven guilty. From everything that I've seen, if she were found innocent by any jury, I'd be stunned. She is in the thick of it, and I think it goes higher in the IRS. These people need to go. More important, they need to be made an example of, so that in future administrations, this kind of politicalization of federal government agencies should be off limits.
We're talking with Assemblyman Bill Nojay, and when we get back, we'll talk state issues, including the Cuomo-Astorino race for governor. Back on Top Story, I'm Brian O'Neill, on with Assemblyman Bill Nojay. Assemblyman Nojay, Rob Astorino, the Republican candidate for governor, he's denying that he had anything to do with leaks to the press about the governor's house in Westchester County. Astorino, of course, is the Westchester County executive. Some Democrat county lawmaker was accusing Astorino of that. Astorino firmly denies it, says he had nothing to do with it. Your thoughts there?
Well, look, this is part of Andrew Cuomo's strategy to pretend that Rob Astorino doesn't exist. Cuomo is running what is commonly known in politics as a Rose Garden strategy, where you ignore your competition, you ignore the guy running against you, and you allow your seconds or your thirds to do all the dirty work. He is a guy who's known for doing a lot of dirty work. Andrew Cuomo is, and you're just seeing that play out. I think you're going to see a lot more of it over the course of the next couple of months. Andrew Cuomo has got a book coming out in September. He's clearly positioning to run for the Democratic presidential nomination next year, to start that up if Hillary Clinton should falter. He's got 200,000 copies of this book coming out in September. That's basically lays the groundwork for a presidential run. So he's going to regard Rob Astorino as sort of like a gnat that keeps buzzing around him, and he wants to swat away. Thing is, I think Astorino is a pretty good candidate. I think he's done a good job so far of calling out Cuomo. I think as the campaign evolves, you get into August and September, you're going to hear a lot of positive proposals out of Astorino of what he would do if he were the governor. And truth be told, at least in upstate New York, our economy is a shambles. The fact is we've got 20% plus unemployment rates. We've got crony capitalism in Albany. We've got unprecedented levels of corruption that this governor talks about, but at the one chance he had to do something about it, he pulled back the Moreland Commission and dissolved them. What does that tell you about his sincerity in dealing with corruption? This guy made a lot of promises, Andrew Cuomo did, when he ran 4 years ago. Virtually none of those promises have come true. More disheartening, as the economy of upstate continues in its death spiral, all he's giving us are gimmick programs and press conferences meant to get some media attention. We're creating very, very few jobs in New York State compared to the rest of the country.
Astorino is saying that Cuomo is like his father and that Andrew Cuomo is avoiding debates like Mario Cuomo. Did Mario Cuomo do that with Lou Lehrman or any of the candidates who ran against Mario Cuomo?
Oh, yeah. Not so much in the Lou Lehrman race, which was his first one, but there was a race after Mario Cuomo's first term against another Westchester County executive named Andrew O'Rourke. And Andy O'Rourke was a good county executive, much like Rob Astorino, got the job done in Westchester County, good candidate. But Mario Cuomo's strategy was to completely ignore him. It got to the point where O'Rourke was wandering around New York City with a life-size poster featuring Mario Cuomo, and he'd say, "Where's Mario? Where's Mario?" Well, you know what? It might be cute for a little while, but then it becomes sort of pathetic. I think Astorino has got to do what Andy O'Rourke was never able to do and get the news media to put such pressure on Andrew that he can't escape debates. Andrew Cuomo has been challenged to 8 debates by Rob Astorino across New York State, all the major media markets. And if we want to have a real campaign talking about real issues, that's how to get the issues out on the table for the people to look at. Unfortunately, I think Andrew Cuomo is going to do everything in his power to avoid facing Rob Astorino in a debate, because I think he knows Astorino's a pretty sharp guy. And if you put Cuomo's record on the table compared to the promises that he made 4 years ago, it's a pretty sorry record.
Bill Nojay, does it seem that the media is less sympathetic and less supportive of Governor Andrew Cuomo as time goes by?
Well, I don't know too many people in the news media that like Andrew Cuomo, but I know most of the people in the news media fear Andrew Cuomo. He's a guy that believes in vendettas. He evens the score. Look at what happened with Fred Dicker, where when Fred Dicker questioned some of Cuomo's actions, Fred was simply cut off. So, yeah, I don't think they like him less. I think it's that they fear him more.
Liz Benjamin talks about that. There's a YouTube clip of Liz Benjamin. I think she was talking to journalist students, and she said there is a fear of Andrew Cuomo among reporters in Albany.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty widespread feeling.
We've been talking with Assemblyman Bill Nojay here on Top Story on AM 1480 WLEA. Bill, any final thoughts before we go?
I think it's going to be a great campaign season. I think this race with Tom Reed against the woman from Ithaca is going to get very interesting.
The Martha Robertson.
Yeah, Martha Robertson. And I'll make a prediction. I think Rob Astorino is going to close it up to within 10 points of Andrew Cuomo by mid-October.
Really, that close?
Race.
That close, 10 points?
Yep, yeah, I think so. I think when people start tuning in and paying attention, I think they're going to realize Rob Astorino is the real McCoy. He's qualified to be governor. And they're going to realize that Andrew Cuomo hasn't done as much for him as he keeps saying he has.
Do you think Astorino can get the teachers' union vote?
You know, the big shots in the teachers' unions are all going to be with Cuomo. but the rank and file teachers are not happy with Common Core. And I think they're going to join together with a lot of parents and say enough with this Common Core stuff. Andrew Cuomo brought it to New York. He will not roll it back. And Rob Astorino has said he would. Same thing with the Second Amendment community, upset about the SAFE Act. Same thing with Southern Tier landowners that want to see the ability to drill and collect those royalty checks like they've got in Pennsylvania and Ohio and other states that have made them a bunch of Jed Clampetts in those states. Andrew Cuomo says, nah, tough luck. I don't care about your jobs. I don't care if you can't pay your property taxes. I'm going to bow to the radical environmentalists, a lot of whom I think we're increasingly finding out have got financial backing from Vladimir Putin and the Arab sheiks who do not want America to drill for natural gas. And in politics, you always follow the breadcrumbs. You always follow the money trail. And the fact is that the money behind a lot of this anti-fracking movement leads back to the Middle East and to Vladimir Putin's Russia.
Assemblyman Bill Nojay, thanks very much for coming on.
Always a pleasure, Brian.